Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cyclical Investors Club YouTube channel. My name is Corey Kramer, and today we're going to be analyzing Ford stock. This one came in by request down in the comments section of one of my other videos. If you have a request you would like me to analyze, just drop it down in the comments section. I'll get it on the whiteboard behind me, and eventually I'll make a video. If it's a stock that's in the S&P 500 like Ford is, I'll post the video on YouTube for free. And if it's not, I post the other ones on Patreon, which is $5 a month. And if you join Patreon, you can get access to the full Cyclical Investors Club service over on Seeking Alpha with a big discount. Both those links will be down in the description. And in my full service, you can chat with me. I have dozens of articles there. The spreadsheets that you occasionally see me use here on the channel are all there for everybody to access whenever they want to. So it makes life pretty easy. If you think that my investing strategies make sense, that's a good place to go and learn and get the tools where I do most of the work for you, and you can kind of see how everything works. So consider giving one of those a join at some point in the future. Okay, as always, this isn't individual investing advice. This is just how I analyze stocks. Now let's get into Ford. Okay, first thing we always want to check is how cyclical earnings have been historically. Earnings have been very cyclical for Ford, basically always. And the main reason for that is I'm going to go on a little tangent because otherwise this will be a really short video. Back in the 1920s, when Ford was like a growth business and there were 1,000 or at least hundreds of auto companies, there's a good book. I forget the name of it now. It has to do with debt. But anyway, it's like the history of debt in the early 20th century in America. It's very boring read. But I learned a lot there about the early auto industry, because really what they would do is they would go out and loan people the money for a new Ford or whatever car. They would, have salespeople that would come to your house out in the farm and sell you make a pitch for the Ford, loan you the money for it. And then right about when it was paid off, they would visit again and they would try to get you to get a refinance So the point is, since the beginning of time, autos have really been always financed by credit. And when you combine that with the fact that they're like consumer credit too, you combine that with the fact that there's fixed overhead costs and interest rates in the economy go up and down, that creates the recipe for a cyclical business. So when we had a credit crisis and a recession in 2008 and 9, it's no surprise that a lot of auto companies went bankrupt. Ford didn't, but they definitely had a rough time of it. So it's definitely a cyclical business, a very deep cyclical business. You can even go back and read Peter Lynch's books in the 90s, and he uses Ford as an example of a cyclical business. But it's also a quality cyclical business. It's lasted 100 years or more than 100 years now, maybe more like 120. And it's survived all that whole time. One of the few automakers that's been able to do that. But we can see that during the Great Recession, it lost about 90% of its. It actually was 90%. It went all the way down to $1 per share here. So, and then during this past downturn, if we measure it from up here, it fell about 80% as well. This is more like 80. It's not a perfect example. So that's deep cyclical. But the cycles are usually pretty far apart. They usually coincide with the wider economic cycle. You'll see little dips here in the middle sometimes, or sometimes they'll struggle. But the really big dips usually come when there's a recession. So you can see this coincides with the economic recession, and as piddly as this recession was, it definitely the peak of the downturn happened during that recession. So I did track Ford. I didn't have a buy price on it, but I decided to put one on it just for this video. And then I'll make a judgment call at the time. The problem is the timing of these cycles is usually the same time you're going to find better quality stocks that you could hold longer potentially, that have less potential to go bankrupt. Usually they're on sale at the same time, like a Ford stock is going to be on sale. So if you think of the stocks you could have bought down here in 2009, like, I don't know, Monster Beverage or something like that, that you could just hold forever and become rich, those opportunities happen. Google, was public at this time. You could have bought that. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to pass up one of those opportunities if you can identify them, and go for the Ford, which will have good returns. So if you buy it down here. So for me, I would say buy it when it's 80% off its highs. So right now it's 50% off, I think a little over 50%. You want that to be 80% before you buy it, without a doubt, and you want to take a small position size. It can go bankrupt. I mean, without the bailout in 2008, Ford would have gone bankrupt too, no doubt about it, along with a lot of other businesses. So you don't want to put a ton of money, but here's the payoff. If you would have bought during COVID here, and you would have held, and you would have said, well, there's a couple different ways to think about it. Usually when I buy, I hold until it reaches a new high, or until I think the cycle is getting ready to turn down or something, if I have some reason to believe that. So if we go back to this $17 and we say, okay, we did a good job. You could even say this is in April. Powell came in and saved the day, and eventually we'll come out of this, and the government's going to do everything it can. I'm buying Ford down here at the bottom. I'm taking my chance. So I would have sold this when it got to about $17 or $18 a share. So let's say right here, we'll give it a little bit of a run, maybe put a trailing stop on it. So that's a 350% return. But you would want to sell it there. Now it went higher, of course, because that's usually what happens. That's what you want to see happen. Especially when you look at earnings peak out about the same level each time. The stock price peaks out about this $17 level each time. That's not something you really want to try to squeeze every last penny out of at the top. That's something you want to take your profits and go, and kind of know ahead of time. I usually know ahead of time when I'm going to sell a deep cyclical like this. So if I had bought it down there, I would have sold it for that 350% profit, let this last little bit go, and then I would have looked smart a couple years later. So yeah, if you buy 80% off its high, you have that'd be like buying a $20 stock that goes to what, 40, 60, 80, 100, 400, four bagger. You could get a 3 or 4 bagger just like we showed here, and then take profits, and then you could go invest in something else. But you have to know what you're doing. You don't want to bet a lot. You don't want to invest a lot at the bottom, because it definitely could fail. If you're really careful on deep cyclicals, I can usually only have about 1 out of 5 of them not have a positive return. So if you have that, but that's still high if you're going to lose. And I've had them go bankrupt before. So you just can't get greedy, but there is opportunities there to make some money. I think especially 2020 would have been a good one. I thought the depression chance was too high. So I don't even think I was actually tracking Ford, because there were some quality. I wasn't totally convinced that it would bounce back. Now, in terms of the business and whether it will bounce back during this next cycle, by the way, if you want to, we'll see if this will load. Yeah. So about $5 a share is what we're looking at for a buy price. Maybe call it under 6, between $5 and $6 a share. So if you just want to write that down or whatever and keep that in your back pocket until the day comes, so that's another 55% down from here. But look, what did I say, $5? So it was down there. It was down there in 2020 during the last recession. And it was down there in 2008, like 15 years ago. So it can get down there again. This isn't like a growth business. This is a steady business that's very cyclical. So You want to buy very low. But so the question is, well, will it bounce back from the next one? I think probably so. But you never know how long it's going to take. It could be one of these long, extended recoveries. And so that's just another reason why when you buy it, you want to buy it really cheap. Maybe it is a long recovery. Maybe instead of having this spike here where it came up high, let's just imagine that didn't happen. The market was a little more negative, and you went all the way out to 2013 before it did that. Okay, well, that's 5 years. It still would have been a good return if you bought it at $2 in 2008 and maybe held it to there. I mean, that's a very good return. But after that, the longer you held, those returns diminish. So if you would have bought it there and held before COVID, now you're at a lower than market return, even though you bought it close to the bottom. So if you have these really long, slow recoveries, which I think is possible with Ford, even if it doesn't go bankrupt during a bad recession, I think in terms of competition, Ford is the F-150. That's how I think about it. I mean, it's the F-150. If they can keep selling F-150s, they will be okay. I don't know why people are paying as much money as they've been paying for these new F-150s, but I'm cheap too. So, and I've been looking for a truck, and I can't bring myself to pay over $50,000 for a new truck. So it's a little puzzling to me. I don't know how long that can last, because I don't think their trucks are at the right price. They're a good deal. Like, they're a fine deal. But $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 for some of these trucks, I mean, that's not a very good deal when you're not getting the kind of reliability and everything else that you would expect from paying that much money. So that's my little thing about Ford. I don't think Tesla's a threat, so I'm not too worried about that. I think Ford's EVs would be good enough to compete for that market as it arises and as ICE engines kind of wither. I don't think we're going to get this giant. I think EVs are the far off future and not the near future. So personally, I think Toyota has taken the best approach on all this with the hybrids for now. They make the most sense. It's the best of both worlds. And kind of that's what I think there. So I don't have super strong opinions about any of that stuff. I really think history probably repeats, and you buy this when it's cheap. Have an exit strategy in mind that's probably one of these, maybe $15 a share, or if you get a little greedy, maybe a little bit above that on the recovery, and call it good. That's what I would do. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a pretty straightforward one, I think. And if you did, hit the subscribe button and the like button. And if you have a request, drop it down in the comments. I'll see everybody later. Bye.